Y'all might want to grab a seat, clutch your pearls, and maybe even call your therapist. Because what just went down on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta makes every previous scandal look like child's play. What if I told you karlieredd didn't just come with drama, she came with documents, receipts, and what fans are calling the Kirk files? What if the man who's spent over a decade sidestepping accountability just got dragged by his lace front and pinned to the wall with facts he can't deny? And what if Rasheeda, Ms. Boss Chick herself, finally snapped on camera in a way we've never seen before? Baby, this ain't just tea, this is boiling lava. For years, Kirk Frost played the quiet manipulator, spinning stories, flipping guilt, and somehow managing to slide out of every scandal with a shrug and a slick smile. But Karlie, oh, she wasn't having it this time. She walked into season 13 like Olivia Pope with a mission and the evidence to match. Screenshots, transactions, secret meets, burner phones, you name it, she got it. And now fans are wondering, is this the end of Kirk and Rasheeda as we know it? Stay tuned, because we're about to unpack a mess so deep, even Mona Scott might hit pause. Now picture this. The set is tense, the air feels thick, and karlieredd walks in not with a purse, full of lip gloss and side-eye, but with a manila folder that looks like it came straight from a federal sting operation. No fake greetings. No over-the-top entrance. Just pure calm, the kind of calm that only shows up when someone knows they're about to end a man's whole storyline. And sitting right across from her was Kirk Frost, trying to keep his cool, but his jaw clenched a little too hard and his eyes darted one too many times. Because Karlie didn't just show up with screenshots of flirty texts or recycled accusations from old seasons. She came locked and loaded with paper receipts, hotel, invoices, bank transactions, and even a signed delivery slip from a boutique hotel Kirk allegedly claimed he'd never stepped foot in. You could almost hear Mona Scott clapping from behind the scenes, because this wasn't drama, it was destruction. She slid that folder onto the table like it was a court summons, and baby, the second she flipped it open, the energy in the room shifted. Kirk tried to play it cool, flashing that smirk he usually hides behind whenever he's cornered, but it vanished the moment Karlie pulled out a printout and said, "Remember June 4th, the night you told Rasheeda you were in Memphis for your cousin's wedding?" She held up the evidence like a badge. "You weren't in Memphis. You were checked into the Westin in Buckhead under the name Marcus James. And guess whose credit card paid for the suite? Yours, Kirk. Not Marcus. Yours." The room didn't just go quiet, it went dead. Even the extras in the background were holding their breath. And Kirk, he blinked once, twice, then looked down, like maybe if he stared at the table long enough, this moment would just vanish. But it didn't. Because Karlie wasn't done. Not even close. She flipped through the folder like she was reading receipts for a tax audit. There were Uber logs, GPS screenshots from a shared location app Kirk forgot he was still on, and best of all, a copy of a Venmo transaction labeled emergency babysitter, sent to a woman who fans instantly recognized from a scandal 2 seasons ago. The connection. That woman wasn't just a fling sheet, was the same woman Kirk denied even knowing when Rasheeda confronted him during the season 7 reunion. And suddenly, fans who remembered that moment were digging up clips and comparing outfits, dates, hairstyles. Everything Karlie said was checking out. She wasn't telling a story, she was building a timeline, but the real bombshell came when she held up a screen recording. A late-night FaceTime call saved with the date and time burned into the corner. On it, Kirk's voice, slurred, laughing, asking the woman to just keep things quiet for now, because Karlie don't know everything yet. The camera never showed Rasheeda's face at that moment, but her silence said everything. Her arms crossed, lips tight, jaw clenched. This was no longer just another cheating allegation. This was a humiliation. And what really shook the cast was how calm Karlie stayed through it all. No yelling, no dramatic one-liners, just stone-cold delivery. Like she'd been rehearsing this moment for years. And maybe she had, because this wasn't the first time Karlie hinted she had receipts, but this time, she brought them, one by one, piece by piece. And she didn't just hit Kirk with the what, she hit him with the when, where, and how. From private dinners charged, to a business card Rasheeda didn't know existed, 2 text messages that show Kirk, ALLEGEDLY, coordinating pickups with women under contact names like Barber and Studio Tech. Even the timestamps matched dates when he claimed to be out of town for family emergencies. But let's talk about the phone, because Karlie claimed that Kirk had been using a secondary number, registered under a prepaid account, and she presented screenshots of that number texting her as recently as 3 weeks before filming. The texts weren't romantic. They were strategic. Kirk allegedly trying to convince Karlie to keep the past in the past and stay quiet to avoid drama, but that backfired spectacularly because Karlie turned those texts into receipts. And when the number was verified to be linked to a burner phone bought in cash just outside of Atlanta, the entire cast looked stunned. Kirk looked like he was trying to calculate an escape route, but there was none. And while all this unfolded, the internet exploded. Fans watching the leaked preview clips went into full conspiracy mode. Twitter was flooded with threads dissecting every piece of evidence. Karlie showed TikTok creators were already stitching theories together about when the affair really started, and Instagram comments were dragging Kirk like he stole something from them personally. Memes flew left and right, with captions like Karlie the IRS, and Kirk just got served with season 13 karma. Even celebrity blogs started weighing in, calling this one of the most brutal reality TV exposures in recent memory. And the most ironic part, Kirk didn't say a word. No denial, no flip out, no excuses, just silence. For a man who usually talks circles around accusations, his quiet was deafening. Which only made the audience believe Karlie even more. But perhaps, the hardest hit of all was Rasheeda. She sat through the entire thing barely blinking, like she was dissociating from the shock. And who could blame her? This wasn't some petty rumor being passed around on set. This was raw, unfiltered evidence being laid out in front of her by a woman she once called messy and untrustworthy. Now, the tables had turned. Karlie looked like the only person telling the truth in a room full of liars. And Rasheeda. She looked like a woman who'd just realized she'd spent years defending the wrong man. There's something heartbreaking about watching someone come to terms with betrayal in real time. Rasheeda wasn't angry. She wasn't loud. She was just still. And that stillness said everything. It said this wasn't the first time. It said she'd probably ignored signs before. And it said that deep down, a part of her already knew. But now, she couldn't unsee the proof. And neither could we. The vibe on set was no longer just messy, it was tragic. Because when the truth hits this hard, there's no going back. No going back. Just when everyone thought it couldn't possibly get any deeper, Karlie calmly reached into the folder and pulled out what she called the timeline of lies. A fully printed color-coded breakdown that had dates, photos, bank transfers, and even airport security images. Yes, she really went there. She had a screenshot of a Delta flight booked under Kirk's assistant's name but with Kirk's frequent flyer number attached. Flying to Los Angeles the exact weekend he told Rasheeda he was in Miami visiting his cousin. The paper trail didn't lie. And neither did the photo of Kirk walking through LAX in a hoodie, blurred but recognizable enough that even Stevie J, sitting 2 chairs away, muttered, "Damn, that's him." And baby, if that wasn't enough. Karlie whipped out a printed message thread that fans would later zoom into and confirm was between Kirk and a woman saved in his phone as SS, who, according to Karlie, was not a producer, stylist, or secretary, but a whole side chick he'd been flying out on the low for months. The messages were cringy at best, downright filthy at worst. And you could see Rasheeda's face change with every line Karlie read out loud. The woman literally flinched when Karlie hit a message that said, "She'll never know. Trust me, she still thinks I'm faithful now that we renewed vows." The irony slapped harder than anything else that night because not even to seasons ago Rasheeda stood in front of cameras and renewed her vows with this man on national TV while the audience cheered and believed it was redemption. Turns out it was just a smokescreen. As Karlie laid it all bare, the cast grew more and more uncomfortable. Yandy Spice, and even Scrappy looked like they wanted to crawl under the couch. This wasn't fun anymore. This was exposure, accountability, and decades of lies unraveling all at once. And Kirk. He didn't say a single word, not one. He kept his eyes low, his mouth tight, and his hands folded in his lap like a student waiting for detention. Every now and then, he glanced toward Rasheeda, but she never looked back. She stared straight ahead like she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. Karlie, though, was ice cold. She didn't gloat. She didn't yell. She didn't even smile. She just laid it all out like a woman tired of being called a liar. And then, like the plot twist no one saw coming, Karlie played an audio message, recorded at 3:17 a.m. A voicemail from Kirk, his voice low, a little slurred, emotional. He said, "I don't even know why I still lie to you. I don't know how to stop. I thought maybe if I could just get through this season clean, everything would go back to normal." You could hear a pin drop in the room. This was the same man who told Rasheeda in countless interviews that he had nothing to hide. The same man who pretended to be reformed, but now his own voice betrayed him. There was no spin that could fix this, no camera angle to soften the blow. Social media went into a frenzy. Within minutes of the clip being leaked online, fans were dissecting every second. Karlie really brought court-level receipts, one user posted, while another tweeted. This is not Love and Hip Hop, this is CSI, Atlanta. TikTok creators began reenacting the entire moment. Blogs titled their headlines "Karlieredd finally gets her justice," and the narrative shifted faster than anyone expected. No longer was she the messy ex with a vendetta. Now she was a woman who stood her ground, gathered facts, and brought the receipts no one else had the courage to show. Even her past beefs with Rasheeda took on new meaning. Maybe she wasn't trying to ruin things after all. Maybe she was just trying to warn her. But the most viral moment came when Rasheeda stood up slowly, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "Cut the cameras." She pulled off her mic pack and walked off set, leaving everyone frozen. The director tried to call her back. Producers scrambled behind her, but she didn't stop. That wasn't for show. That was real pain. Years of it, boiling to the surface in a single moment. And Karlie. She didn't chase, she didn't explain. She simply sat there and said, she deserved the truth, that's all. Backstage, things got even messier. According to a crew member who later spilled to an anonymous blog, Rasheeda refused to come back on set and locked herself in her dressing room for nearly an hour. She reportedly demanded that certain scenes be cut from the final episode, but producers stood firm. The footage was too raw, too real, and too necessary to be hidden. One source even said Mona herself called Rasheeda and told her, "This is bigger than you now." Meanwhile, Kirk remained backstage too, trying to get access to the footage. Karlie had dropped, but he was blocked. Security was reportedly placed outside Karlie's room to prevent any confrontation. This wasn't just reality TV anymore, this felt like a real-life betrayal playing out on the biggest platform possible. But Karlie wasn't finished. She took to Instagram Live later that night and addressed her fans directly. No makeup, no filter. Just her, looking dead into the camera. She said, "I stayed quiet for too long. I protected people who didn't deserve it. I let myself be dragged on TV, called crazy, called bitter, all for telling the truth. But tonight, I let it go. I let all of it go." Within seconds, her live had over 80,000 viewers, all watching as she poured her heart out. She said Kirk had been reaching out to her for months under the guise of friendship, business, closure, anything to keep her quiet. He used charm, guilt, even money. She showed a bank notification where Kirk allegedly sent her $2,500 with the memo, "Just chill." But she didn't chill. She collected, she archived, and tonight, she exposed. She said this wasn't about being messy. It was about liberation. And fans felt it. The comment section exploded with messages like, "We believe you, and you carried this whole season on your back." The ripple effect of the revelation was immediate. Other cast members began questioning what they believed, what they'd been told, and whether they were complicit in silencing Karlie all along. Rasheeda still hadn't made a public statement, but her silence was louder than anything she could have said. And Kirk, nowhere to be seen. No Instagram story, no Twitter post, no press release, just dead quiet. And in that silence, the audience found their answer. Because if there was a defense to be made, he would have made it. But the receipts were too clean, the timeline too precise, the voice messages too damning. There was nowhere left to run. Now fans were calling for a full reunion showdown, demanding Karlie be given a prime seat, even a producer credit. She had turned a season full of half-truths and gaslighting into the most talked-about moment of the franchise. And she didn't do it with drama, she did it with data. She weaponized the truth and hit harder than any storyline twist could. As the fallout intensified and social media continued to spiral into chaos, production knew they had struck scandal gold, but behind the scenes, the energy had shifted from thrilling to almost uncomfortable. Everyone was walking on eggshells, unsure if filming would even continue. And Rasheeda still hadn't come out of her dressing room. Some crew whispered that she was on the phone with her lawyer. Others said she was crying so hard she couldn't speak. The woman who had built an entire brand around loyalty, trust, and standing by her man was now being forced to confront the one thing she fought hardest to avoid: humiliation in front of millions. Meanwhile, Karlie stayed composed, sitting in her corner of the studio with that same unreadable expression she walked in with. It wasn't satisfaction or spite. It was a strange calm, like someone who had carried a burden for years and finally put it down. And that's when things took another wild turn. Just before the crew wrapped for the day, one of the producers pulled Karlie aside with a phone in hand. Apparently, someone from Kirk's inner circle had sent an anonymous tip with a fresh batch of screenshots and an attached voice memo. The message said, "If you want the full story, don't stop here. He's been lying to more than just Rasheeda and Karlie." And just like that, the drama exploded all over again. The screenshots showed messages between Kirk and a third woman, not the one from the earlier FaceTime calls, but someone entirely new. Someone who claimed to have been in contact with Kirk for over a year, receiving money, gifts, and even promises of love. There were images of hotel receipts in her name, flights booked for two, and even a handwritten note from Kirk that simply read, "I know I don't deserve you, but I'll fix it." That same handwriting matched another note Rasheeda had shown on Instagram months ago for their anniversary. Fans started piecing everything together in real time, and it was obvious Kirk had a whole script he was sending out to multiple women like a recycled apology playlist. The third woman hadn't appeared on the show, hadn't spoken to production, but clearly had the receipts to back her claims. One of the texts even referenced Karlie, saying, "Don't listen to Karlie, she's just bitter and jealous." Another message said, "Rasheeda and I are just business now. I sleep in a different room." The audacity was unreal. By the next morning, blogs were lit up. Headlines like "Karlie's receipts unleash a storm" and "Kirk caught juggling 3 lives at once" dominated every platform. Even gossip shows outside the love and hip-hop circle were chiming in, questioning how deep Kirk's manipulation really went. And fans were livid. Not just for Rasheeda or Karlie, but for how long this had been allowed to continue on TV without accountability. Petitions popped up demanding Kirk be removed from the show entirely. Viewers said they were tired of seeing toxic behavior rewarded with more screen time and checks. Meanwhile, the network stayed silent, clearly unsure how to proceed with the rest of the season now that one of its core couples was collapsing in front of the world. But Karlie, she doubled down. She posted a message on her Instagram story that simply said, "When the truth hits, don't flinch. Just watch it land." And fans praised her for not backing down, for finally exposing what everyone suspected but never had the guts to confirm. Back on set, Rasheeda eventually emerged, visibly drained but composed. She didn't speak to Kirk. She didn't look at Karlie. She walked straight past the cameras and into a solo interview, where sources say she told producers, "I don't know who I've been married to all these years, but I'm done protecting him." That single sentence was all fans needed to hear. It confirmed what everyone feared, that Rasheeda had truly believed in the illusion Kirk created, only to find out it was built on layers of betrayal. What hurt the most wasn't just the cheating, it was the planning, the lying, the way he used every woman in his life to maintain the image of a devoted husband. He weaponized loyalty, and Rasheeda, for all her strength and independence, had become a victim of that manipulation without even realizing it. Her breakdown wasn't loud or messy, it was quiet and final. She wasn't crying for the cameras. She was done, and in a final twist no one saw coming, Karlie sat down for an exclusive segment with producers where she admitted she'd almost deleted everything. She said there were nights she stared at the messages, wondering if exposing it all would be worth the emotional toll. But every time she remembered the years she was made to feel crazy, bitter, or irrelevant, she reminded herself that truth doesn't expire. She said, "I could have walked away and let him keep playing both of us, but I wanted to be free. I didn't want this man in my story anymore, not even as a villain. I needed closure." That statement hit fans hard. It wasn't about revenge. It was about healing. And for the first time, people saw Karlie not as the instigator, but as the survivor. She had every reason to stay quiet, but instead, she took the risk, knowing it might cost her friendships, alliances, even her reputation. But what she gained was clarity, and in the world of reality TV, where image is everything, that's the rarest win of all. Production insiders revealed that the reunion episode had to be rewritten because of how serious the fallout had become. Kirk and Rasheeda reportedly refused to film together, and Karlie was now being given her own segment to share the full scope of her evidence. A source even claimed that Karlie was being considered for an executive producer credit in the next Season 4, bringing the most explosive storyline to the franchise in years. And while Kirk stayed silent, his actions continued to haunt the show. Old clips resurfaced where he gaslighted Rasheeda, denied obvious truths, and laughed off accusations, and now fans were watching with new eyes. Everything Karlie said had been there all along, hiding in plain sight. But now that the curtain had been pulled back, there was no unseeing the truth. As for Rasheeda, she issued a brief statement on her social media, simply saying, "Thank you for the love, I need time." And fans respected it. They didn't need her to say more. Her silence, her walk-off, her refusal to film beside Kirk, those were all statements louder than words. She had given that man everything, and now, she was taking herself back. And Karlie, for once, didn't follow it up with mess. She ended the saga with a quiet dignity, letting the truth do the talking. And that's what made this entire reveal so powerful. It wasn't the yelling, the fighting, or the chaos. It was the cold, clear facts delivered by a woman who had been underestimated for too long. So now the question isn't whether Kirk cheated. That's been answered. The real question is what the show will look like without him. And whether Rasheeda will rise from this like the Phoenix fans hope she will. Because one thing's for sure, karlieredd may have just changed the entire narrative of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta forever. Phew, y'all. If your jaw is still on the floor, you're not alone. This wasn't just drama. This was full-blown reality TV history being made right before our eyes. Karlie didn't just bring receipts. She brought the whole filing cabinet, and now there's no going back. So let me ask you this. After everything that just came to light, do you think Rasheeda will finally walk away for good? Is Kirk done for real this time? Or will he slither back like nothing happened? And Karlie, did she just secure her crown as the real MVP of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta? Drop your thoughts in the comments because trust this conversation is just getting started. Don't just scroll past, we need to hear what you think. Should Kirk be cut from the show? Does Rasheeda owe Karlie an apology? And did Karlie just pull off the biggest comeback in franchise history? While you're at it, hit that like button if this tea had you clutching your pearls, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because if you think this was wild, baby, the next chapter's about to be even messier. Stay locked in, stay loud, and as always, stay messy, and stay blessed.